Fiji and Scotland this weekend, folks. Very important match, world rankings wise. Scotland are pushing for top tier seedings at the next Rugby World Cup. They're currently 7th in the world. They want to be 6th or higher, because then you get to be a tier 1 side and avoid the All Blacks and Box and Irish and French, etc. But the Fijians are only 9th, so not far away from the same ambition themselves. The Fijians lost to the Aussies last week, which took them a little bit of a step back in that chase for top seeding, but they are at home this week to Scotland, and Scotland, they beat the Māori All Blacks last week with a much changed lineup. A lot of the big guns, barring the Lions, guys, are back this week. We'll go through the squads, which have been announced, some of the stats, squad changes, whatnot, predictions, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. For Fiji, very, very stable stuff. Maui, Ikanaveri, and Ndongia is the front row. And Ndongia seems to be only starting because Ravai has had to go for an MRI after the last game against the Wallabies. So injury and force change there in the front row. And Nasila Sila and Mayana Vanua are there in the second row. So barring the change at tight head, it is the same tight 5 which played last week. I feel like one of the areas these guys will want to get right is the line-out. It was a little bit scrappy against the Wallabies. They were mainly using the Sila. I think he won like 5 of the line-outs, but would need a bit of support from some of the other guys around the line-out options, whether it's Vili Mata or Mayana Vanua or whoever else. Tangi Valu, Tanakai Vata, and Mata, that is the same back row as last week. Tanakai Vata was certainly very busy defensively, like 18 tackles for him. There's a massive shift last week. Kurvoli and Muntz resumed their 9-10 combo. And yeah, would like to get a little bit more kind of front football sometimes on the structured play, because the unstructured play, goodness me, at times was just unbelievable. Tui Silva and Mangala. It's one change in the midfield with Mangala coming in. That's, I feel like, a welcome change. No disrespect to Masi, but he didn't have his best game last week at 13. Dropped a fair bit of ball, so I think Mangala, based on his form throughout his club season and just last week, is certainly deserving of his spot there, and I feel like the midfield is looking a little bit more dangerous for Fiji there. Waningolo got all the highlight reel stuff last week, as I was talking about broken play. Oh my goodness, the dude went length of the field. He beat, like, I think 6 defenders in that game. He was just such a danger man, so Scotland will need to be watching him. Revolver was on the right, and then Rayasi, with his test debut, certainly looked very sharp there at fullback too, even putting in a few pretty decent hoofs with the boot. Bench-wise, Matabesi, Hetet, and Tawake. So Tawake comes in as the replacement tight head to fill in for Ndongia, who's had to be promoted to the starting role. Vorsesi is still there. Tuisui is still there, so it's still the 5 forwards. They've got Sam Y as the halfback replacement. He's potentially going to get his first cap for Fiji if he comes off the bench. Armstrong Ravula is the kind of playmaker on the bench, and then they've also got a playmaker in Potitu as well. So Masi is out of the 23 entirely. So story of the day for them, very stable squad. I think 1 selection change, 1 injury change. They'll be looking to get the line out right. And if that does go right, other things I think should fall into place. For the Scots, bunch of changes from the team which played the Māori All Blacks last week. I think they were saving many of these guys for this game just because of how important it is, honestly, for the world rankings. The Māori All Blacks game, not a test, so no world rankings points at risk or to gain on that one. Sutherland, Ashman, and Miller Mills, these are all guys who played in the Six Nations this year, all come into the squad who didn't play last week. Sykes and Gilchrist, so Gilchrist likewise comes in, certainly one of the first choice Six Nations starters, and then the back row is very sexy. Richie with the turnovers at 6, Darge with his big tackles and rucks, cleaning out and whatnot. At 7, he is captain, and then Matt Fagerson, who, barring when Dempsey is playing, is often the number 8 for Scotland anyway. So it's, in many positions, a first choice front row for the Scots, but obviously anytime they're without Xander Fagerson, who was initially called up for the Lions and then had to withdraw for the Lions from injury, the scrum does look a little bit depowered. So that is going to be one area to watch. Dobby gets promoted alongside Fergus Burke from the bench to be the 9-10 combo. So it's Fergus Burke's first test cap for the Scots, so it's a big bit of pressure on him, but Gregor Townsend did talk about him and his running game being able to cause problems against Fiji, so that's what he's looking for from him. He did come off the bench against the Māori All Blacks last week, but that wasn't a test, as I said. Tom Jordan and Cam Redpath, it's a very sexy midfield as well. Very good kind of playmaking option in Redpath, and Tom Jordan is an aggressive ball carrier, so him up against the likes of a bloody Tui Silva and Mangala is going to be worth the price of admission. Kyle Steyn, Mr. Consistent there on the left wing. Darcy Graham, many Scottish fans would have thought he would have been called up to the Lions by this point with all the injuries they've been having, or in the initial call-up as well, but didn't get it. It's better for this game that he's playing in this one rather than on the bench, I guess, for the Lions, because yeah, there's some very good outside backs in this game. Him up against Wainingolo, very interesting. And then Kyle Rowe, another guy who's been, regularly on the bench or in the squad for the Scots over the last few years too. Turner, Hepburn and Hurd, that's the same front row replacements from last week, stay on the bench. Likewise, Max Williamson, Josh Bayliss drops to the bench. George Horn drops to the bench. He's kind of, I feel like, almost made to be, he's a good starter as well, but he gives you such impact from the bench. There's George Horn with those aggressive snipes of his. Adam Hastings and Ollie Smith likewise dropped to the bench. I think Gregor Brown and Ben Munkas, they got injuries in the last game, so weren't available for selection for this one. The Scots against the Māori All Blacks defended pretty well. I think they had a tackle percentage rate of like 96%, which is class. They did concede a couple of yellow cards, though, and you feel like against Fiji, they will want to keep all the guys on the field, because if there's any space, the Fijians will exploit it. And the line-out was a bit better than the Fijian ones. It was like 88%, but still they would like those numbers to be in the 90s for sure. Recent history between the sides is largely dominated by Scotland. It's 4-1, but most of those victories coming in Scotland. Most recent one was 57-17 against a bit of a depleted Fijian side. I remember both sides were without, because it was outside the test window from memory, both sides were without a few big guns. So it was pretty lopsided. Test before that was 28-12 at Murrayfield as well, so a bit closer. There's a called off match, I think, during the COVID years amongst that. But the most recent match in Fiji was a Fijian win. That was also in Suva. That was 27-22 back in 2017. So not quite a decade ago. But Ben Volavola, his boot, helped kick Fiji to success that day. Pete Horn was running the show with Henry Purgos at 9. So slightly different sides, but a few guys played in that game are playing in this one as well. The Scots did win the previous game to that in Fiji, but that was way back in 2012, and that was in Lautoka. So they have tasted success against the Fijians in Fiji, but Fijian wins against Scotland have always come in Fiji. It is on at Suva, like I mentioned. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff, so it's going to be pretty hot over there, I would imagine. Compared to what the Scottish guys are used to playing rugby in. And it's also not going to be the best kickoff time for you guys in the UK. I think it's 4 a.m. 3 p.m. for me in New Zealand, so it's almost like a reverse of when I'm watching the Six Nations fixtures in the middle of the night. So it's going to be a pretty brutal kickoff time for anyone getting up to watch it live, but Fijian fans, New Zealand fans, 3 p.m. works pretty well. The Fijians are the favourites with the bookies. Hence me wearing the Scottish kit, because I tend to wear the underdogs for the previews. They are saying Fiji by 5. But the Rugby Forecast algorithm has actually got the Scots as favourites. So it's a split. Usually the algorithm and the bookies agree, but it's just by the margin that's different. This time it's a split. The algo says Scotland by 4. New Zealander Ben O'Keefe is the ref. Maybe that gives the Fijians a touch of an advantage refereeing wise, because all the Drua guys will be very familiar with Ben O'Keefe's refereeing style. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts. How do you reckon this one is going to go? Who are the favourites? Is it the Fijians at home, where they tend to be pretty strong, or is it the Scottish squad, which, like I said, barring their Lions and Xander Fakerson's injury, who would have been a Lion anyway, it's a pretty strong looking Scottish squad as well. Very much not like a B team by any means. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.